You are listening to the Crazy Town Podcast, Season 2, Episode 21, with Jonas and TNT Dynamite. TNT, we got some guest hosts today.
Yeah. I think, yeah.
Do we?
I don't know, do we?
We have the Pod Couple from the Pod Couple podcast on.
See, I like those guys. Our faithful Canadians from the Great
absolutely.
White
We
North.
were on their podcast for an episode, and then now they're coming on ours.
All right, cool.
Awesome. But before we get into that, have you ever been in a traffic jam?
Jeez, man, I actually was just the other day.
You were today?
Yeah.
So have you ever been in a traffic jam where then, like, it's slow for, I don't know, a couple miles, and then traffic starts speeding up, no accident.
And there's fucking nothing there.
There's nothing.
There's
nothing. Did you know that is actually a phenomenon called phantom traffic jams?
Really?
It's a real thing. They've done scientific research on it, and I found out why they happen. What happens is that in thick traffic, one car will brake, which then the next car brakes a little harder to not hit them. It causes a chain reaction of braking all the way back to where it ends up at a standstill because it's like a little harder. Don't laugh at a little harder. I know your mind.
I was not even going there, but it is funny.
But so then,
give you that.
and then basically the same thing happens in reverse. The car speeds back up to speed, speeds back up to speed.
That's fucking so stupid.
And it's actually called a phantom traffic jam. But it can only happen in thick traffic because if there's enough space between the cars, one car braking isn't going to cause a chain reaction all the way down. Yeah, so
that's crazy.
So the next time you're in a traffic jam and there's nothing happen, the Phantom got you. The Phantom knows. So yeah, that's really all I got for the tip on this one. So, but now that you know,
don't drive like a dick.
So don't drive like a. Don't ever use your brakes.
Don't ever.
Ever. So now that you know that fake traffic jams are real, enjoy the show, everybody.
Bunyan, take 3.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Crazy Town Podcast. My name is Jonas. I am your host, and I'm here with
TNT Dynamite, the explosive one. TNT DINOMIGHT. What's going on, Jonas?
Nothing. We have some special guest hosts today, TNT.
Oh, yeah?
It's a pod guy and pod gal from the Pod Couple Podcast. Go ahead and say hello, everybody.
Hey, I'm Pod Guy.
Hey, and I'm Pod Gal, and guess what?
What?
I am totally stoked to be on this show today.
That's awesome. We're totally stoked to have you here.
I thought she was going to say she was totally stoned to be on the show today.
That's Pod Gal talk.
I mean, you guys are about to be legal pretty soon up there.
Oh, yeah, we heard about that.
So
yeah, that's what they say. So we'll see what happens. It keeps getting delayed, but
okay. Yeah,
they're saying the summer. So,
oh.
That's pretty
well,
good.
do you want to tell everybody where they can find you guys online? Where your Twitter, or iTunes, or whatever. Go and let everybody know where they can find your podcast.
Okay, so you can find us everywhere, and just so you know, our logo is the peas. We're not a silhouette on a blue background. We are the Pod Couple. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at the Pod Couple, and you can email us. Listen to this. We've evolved the Pod Couple podcast at gmail.com.
Ah, okay. All right. Well, we want to thank everyone for listening to the show today. We just want to say, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, you should do that now. It's under Crazy Town Media. We have our podcast there and our gaming videos. Also, make sure you follow us on Twitter at the Crazy Town Pod and at Crazy Town Media. If you don't, Grandma will not take you to Canada later this year to smoke legal weed.
But Grandma, I just got my SIM card.
What? There you go. All right, and of course, as always, the cornucopia of continuous information, thecrazytown.com. All right, guys, we have a show today planned about urban legends. Some that are based on true stories and some that are, I don't know, probably fake.
This is a great choice because I love urban legends.
Awesome.
Yeah, and people loves fake news.
Yeah, right. So before we get into any of that, though, TNT Dynamite, are you ready to drop some knowledge on all of us hoes?
Absolutely.
All right, what's our word of the day?
Today's word is ineffable.
How do you spell that?
You spell it INEFFABLE.
Okay.
And ineffable is kind of like what the pod couple, the pod crew, the pod.
Careful here. I don't like.
I'm not gonna say pod clan. Let's just. But it's kind of what they mean to us.
What's
it
that?
means too great or extreme to be expressed or described in words.
Oh, coming straight from the heart.
Ah,
Wow, that's amazing. What a great word.
Yeah, throw that one in your vocab.
All right. Well, we're gonna get right into it. I have a bunch of stories to cover today, and we'll see how many we can get through. So, the first urban legend comes from Dorking, England.
Nice name.
Right, that's the urban legend. That's the name of the town.
Automatically. All right.
I bet you that town got beat up a lot.
Yeah, they sure did.
I get it.
So in Dorking, England, there was a legend of the ghost squirrel. It was only seen in the cemetery at the church, and it ended up, they named it. They called it Albie.
Albie the ghost squirrel.
Yes.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. So it turned out that Albie wasn't an urban legend at all. He was an albino squirrel who had a nest in the cemetery's
That's
trees.
just bad journalism. Not on you, but on them.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
We've got some albino raccoons in our neighborhood, so maybe we should get the urban legend going that they're ghost raccoons.
Oh my
Yeah.
God! You have wait, hold on. You have albino raccoons in your
That's
neighborhood?
actually awesome.
Yes, we do. And we also have a bear. It's actually our province's provincial animal, and it's a spirit bear, which is a black bear that has white or blonde hair. It's quite magnificent, really.
Wait. So
Spirit bear.
it's an albino black bear, or it's a black bear that just has like sporadic white hair on it?
Like it's Brendel.
It's not albino. Its eyes are brown, and its hair, it's not spotty. It is completely kind of blonde white or variations thereof. It's stunning, actually. You must check it out.
A blonde black bear. How is that even possible? Wow. So
Yeah.
I do have a
It's a
sad
spirit bear.
thing to add about Albie. He ended up getting hit by a car.
Get out of here, dude. You got to kill him?
I didn't kill him.
I want to see a movie.
About Albie the ghost
Yeah.
squirrel?
I do.
Did he haunt the place again, or what?
No, there was no real other news, but I guess only Illinois has a albino squirrel population, and they were so upset by this news they offered to ship them albino squirrels to rebuild the population of albino squirrels.
Oh, see?
Wow.
Is albinism like hereditary?
Albinism, is that the word?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Is that hereditary?
A will of not, I always said.
I think it's like one of those off traits where
So
like
like
it's
a
like just the
recessive.
right combo of genes, like it's like a dormant trait in almost everyone that can like come out.
I can't picture like two like pure white rabbits just smashing it out and then having like a litter, a little like white babies. Wait, I don't like the way that came out.
Little
Can't
white
imagine
babies.
that. I think we take traffic with it for a while, but
So wait, about these albino raccoons. So like, is it like a whole fleet of them? Is it like a thing that's like common?
Well, this island is really weird. It is overpopulated by raccoons as a whole,
Really?
and deer. I would say it's overpopulated with deer and raccoons. And there's apparently a family of white raccoons. So, and we've seen pictures, but I don't know much more about it. Do you, Pod Guy?
think it was due to a lot of inbreeding.
Yeah, probably. Are they white? Are they white raccoons and they still have the black eyes, or are they like?
They looked pure white, according to the
That
picture.
would be
Probably
so
have, like,
creepy.
the
They look
red
like
eyes.
little rabid possums running around with like puffy
Yeah,
tails,
except they're like 10 times as dangerous. Those things are
full of disease.
they're a little vicious at times.
Chock full of disease.
Yeah, right.
How many raccoon attacks do you think you would have in your community a month?
Raccoon? Is that a problem?
It must be. If you have a bunch of raccoons, eventually you're going to have an uprising.
Yeah, well, this is the first time we've actually shared this with anyone. It's
here
been,
it goes.
basically in the cone of silence with Pod Guy and myself.
Crazy Town exclusive.
This is a Crazy Town exclusive, and it's going to be about the latest encounter we had with the raccoons.
Well, let me just jump in here. The real scoop of the story is that we saw a raccoon in our backyard, and Podgal goes, "Let's start feeding it. Let's start putting it out."
no.
I said, "There's no way that we're feeding it."
You have like a whole family of raccoons living under their back porch.
So now that you have a bowl of kibble on your back porch.
Well, I have a soft spot, and I'm not going to get into it, but my grandma found 3 baby orphaned raccoons. They were very teeny tiny, and they were like in this pile of hay bales. So my grandma rescued them and bottle fed them, and that's how I first met the raccoon. So of course I have a soft spot.
And it's funny because that's the way the ant died too. Raccoon attack.
Was it a raccoon? Jesus.
Wow.
A crime of passion.
Yeah, right?
I can tell you.
All right. The next urban
Yeah.
legend. This one is about the Friday night bank robber. It was a story of a man who would only rob banks on Friday nights. And it ended up being true. This man, I didn't even catch his name. Oh, yeah, Carl Gugasian, Gugasian. He robbed more than 50 banks over 30 years and ended up with almost $2 million.
And he blamed it on a ghost.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was the ghost robber. So I guess what this guy would do is he would scout banks that were near wooded areas in small towns. Then he would watch the employees and get their patterns, and then he would rob them on a Friday night so he could catch them off guard right before the weekend. And then he would run into the wood. He would go in, demand as much money as he could get in like 2 minutes, and then he would run out. Then he had a dirt bike waiting in the woods. He would drive the dirt bike to a van. He would then bury the clothes, the guns, the money in the woods, put the dirt bike in the back of the van, drive the van away, and then come back a few days later once the heat was off and get the money and the clothes.
Wow.
He's a hard worker.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right?
no
That's
shit,
a pretty
right?
good plan, though, right?
And
Wow, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was exhausted just listening to it. I thought, what an elaborate heist. My God.
Hey,
And then he actually only got caught by accident. He would take all of the stuff from his robbery, the weapons, the clothes, everything, and he would put them inside sealed PVC pipes, and he threw them in a concrete drainage area. And then 2 random kids found them playing one day, and then they were able to build a profile off of what they found in all these PVC pipes, and they eventually caught him.
Huh.
That's how he was caught. 2 damn kids playing in a sewage drain.
If it wasn't, he would have got away with it if it wasn't for those damn kids.
Nice.
Right?
Yo, he had a pretty good run though. You said
Oh,
over
yeah.
20 years he did that?
But he robbed 50 banks and only ended up with $2 million. That seems kind of low, right?
I mean, I don't
Yeah,
have a
how
million.
old was he?
Well, I mean, this happened in I think it was like the 70s to like in the 60s and 70s. So I guess really $2 million then is probably a lot more now.
Yeah.
Value-wise with inflation and all that.
That's not really an urban legend though.
He was the urban legend of the Friday night bank robber until he was caught.
We're just glamorizing
like
criminals at this point.
Yeah, what do we do on Crazy Town Podcast?
We don't glamorize criminal activity. Somebody's going to try and copycat this guy, and then they're going to blame us. And we could be held culpable.
For what? for some guy that robbed a bank 50 years ago?
Listen at you. Everybody's like, wow, look at this guy. I'm like, I hope he got what he deserved.
He did get what he deserved.
How many years?
Actually, he only ended up having to serve 17 years because he cooperated so much with authorities, and even while he was in jail, he taught other inmates calculus. He got out of jail. He got out of jail in 2017. Yeah, I know. Right? So he really was a smart guy. And he got out of jail actually in 2017. So he is free now.
Really?
And he robbed a bank last week. No, I'm just kidding.
He wrote a book, and now he's worth $50 million.
Exactly.
You guys need to get him on the podcast.
I would love to. Man, we should reach out to him and try to get him on.
Invite him over to your house.
Yeah.
I thought we just talked about not glorifying criminals.
And then we're like, let's get this guy on. We should totally get this guy on.
We love this guy.
Do a bit of a
Wow, we should totally get this guy on. I'm going to do that. I'm going to reach out to him.
Get him on and shame him.
Could a bank robber shame him? He's still rich.
How is he still rich?
You know he hid more than $2 million.
That's a good point. He probably has some hidden.
This is kind of a sad story, this urban legend.
Aww.
This is another true one, though.
Oh,
There was the story in Pennsylvania of the Green Man. Turns out there was a legend of a man who would walk up and down the streets at night with no face.
Will Smith.
Wait, what?
You said Philadelphia.
I said PA. You assumed Philadelphia.
I did assume Philadelphia. I'm sorry. I was playing a Fresh Prince theme as soon as you said PA.
All right.
It's all right. Go right ahead.
So
Sing it, TNT, sing it.
We don't want that. We don't want that.
So they would say that the man would wander up and down the main highway in this town with no face. Turns out he really did have no face. It was a man by the name of Raymond Robinson, and people either called him the Green Man or Charlie No Face. What a derogatory-ass term to call somebody that really doesn't have a face.
What was his real name?
Raymond Robinson.
And they called him Charlie No Face. Yeah, that's a double slap
Nobody
in the
remembers
face.
his real name.
You could never put a face to a name.
Oh, ba-dun-dun.
There they come.
So, but I guess what happened to this kid is when he was a child, he had an electrical accident that caused him to lose both eyes, his nose, and his right arm. And because he was so disfigured, he wouldn't go out during the day for a fear of creating panic. So he would go out at night and do these long walks. But then people started trying to find him while they were doing his walks and talk to him and stuff like that, take pictures, whatever. And it ended up he was actually hit by cars a couple times, but he never stopped doing his walks.
He loved those walks.
Yeah, I guess eyes are a vital component of the face.
Or walking down the street at night.
I'm just saying, you probably didn't see
This
the
sounds
cars
like
coming.
urban legend.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
calling
who knows?
fake news.
Yeah, right?
So he wasn't. This isn't the guy they used to have on Murray Povich, is it?
Oh,
Or
maybe.
Jerry Springer.
Oh, they did used to have guys like that on
Yeah,
there,
they
didn't
used to
they?
have-
I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever watch? Did they have that in Canada? Like the Jerry
They
Springer?
do.
Jerry Springer. I love Jerry Springer.
We were just talking about him the other day. So, all right, this one is kind of sick and twisted. The next one I'm getting to.
Mhm.
It's called the Ferry House.
The Ferry House.
Yes, it's a Washington State urban legend.
Gay bar? Is it? No, I'm just asking.
No,
For a
no.
friend.
No,
Okay.
that's a derogatory term, TNT.
Gay bars are derogatory.
Oh, shame. We're going to take you on the podcast and shame you.
We're gonna shame you for going to the Ferry House.
Gay bars.
Anyways, so remember that this Ferry House was a tree house, a very elaborate tree house in the woods, and that was in Washington State in a park. And for years, no one knew it existed. It was just like a rumor. It was in Mount Baker Snoqualmie National Forest, Snoqualmie.
Real place.
And I don't know if he was a park ranger or just like an explorer, but this guy went out looking for this ferry house.
Mm.
So he eventually one day found it. But when he went into the ferry house,
He died.
there was framed child pornography
What
in
the
the
fuck?
inside of it.
Man,
Yeah.
come on. You can't do that.
Yeah, right. So he goes. So he walks in. He's like, "Oh my God, look at this elaborate ferry house." He opens the door, and there's framed child pornography on the wall. So what he did was he staked it out and got the guy's license plate number when he showed up and got the guy who went there arrested for. And turns out the guy had a bunch of other child pornography at his house.
Oh, you don't fucking
He didn't just
say.
keep it at the ferry house.
What?
Well, I think that's the key. It's got to be one or the other, right?
Why would you
I mean, at the ferry house.
Why would you build an elaborate house made of wood to house your child pornography?
I don't know, man. It's like asking to get caught. It's like, hey, let's build a remodeled version of the White House in the woods. No one will ever go in there if they find it. Oh wait, they found all my child pornography. I mean, it's like I don't know, man. People are. I mean, I guess if you're a guy who's into child pornography, you don't have the brightest brain anyway, right?
I can just see somebody walking into this ferry house and then looking around at all this stuff on the wall and goes, I really like their decorator.
I should get the name of this guy's, what do you call that, feng shui artist?
Feng shui artist?
Oh my God. Well, what I pictured is a Hansel and Gretel house. And right? And I just, pictured these happy kids being so excited to find this house made of candy, open up the door only to find. So
this is so dark.
It's like
now you're building a mental image in my head.
To get the kids.
Oh, come on.
God. Oh, man.
Well, funny you should say that because we've got a bunch of ferry houses in our neighborhood.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Do they have child pornography in them at all? Because that could be a problem.
I've never been in one.
No.
But
Jesus.
it's like in some of the parks, they call it a ferry house, and it's got like this fancy door, and it's really teeny tiny, and they're put in like trees. And, some you would open up and there'd be a big hole and there's a bunch of stuff in it, right? Like stickers and tattoos.
Teeny tiny figurines.
So, like, people put them in their trees to, like, decorate their yard or their land?
Or they're big enough a person can go in.
That's what I'm trying to
No, you can't go in it. They're small. They're for ferries.
Yeah, they're teeny tiny, probably
I got you.
10 inches tall. And
Does the city commission somebody to do this, or is it like a personal thing? Like, I'm going to put a house in my tree.
Yeah, no, it's in a park, and some guy just loves making these doors, so he's putting them all over the park kind of thing.
So it's like a birdhouse kind of, but for fairies?
Yeah, it's just got a fancy door, and it's got glitter on it, and it's got a doorknob. You can open it, right?
It's modern art, man.
Oh,
I
interesting.
get it. I get it.
It is, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Interesting.
But I guess people are taking these ferry houses and they're smashing them into a million pieces.
People are such assholes.
Canadians, they're just like us.
They're like, you know what? I fucking hate ferries. I'm going to smash this ferry house. Fuck this guy. I know he put a lot of work into it, but I don't care. Like, I mean, come on.
I know.
I can't enjoy his fairy art. You know, I mean, it's what he does. Is it like a artist from town, or just some random guy who's really into fairies, or what?
I think it's some random guy.
No, he's probably like a carpenter or something like that. So he likes to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I got you. Okay.
And so it's kind of he's probably retired and he's probably passionate about making these doors, and he's probably been making them for 50 years. And he wants to get rid of some. I don't know.
That's pretty cool, though.
He's like the man who lives in the shoe, but he's the man who lives in a fairy house
Yeah,
and has to get all the extra fairy doors out of his fairy house.
Yeah, we need to get him on the show.
I was just going to say, if that guy's
you guys should
listening,
have the fairy guy on the show.
if that guy's listening, call us up.
All right, the next one. There was a lawyer who was in a Toronto high-rise office. His name was Gary Hoy. He before he was a lawyer, he had an engineering degree. His lawyer office was on the 24th floor of the building. I guess he had a running joke, where he would give tours of the building and tell people that the windows were indestructible, and he would run and jump into them full force to show them that they couldn't break. Except one day, when he did it, the window didn't break, but it busted out of the frame, and he fell 24 floors to his death.
Okay.
Oh my God.
That was pretty stupid. I mean, he was asking for it.
Surprise.
Yeah, he was asking
Right.
for it.
Well, he was right about the integrity of the window.
Yeah,
not the
it didn't
frame.
break. Yeah.
The comment,
Again, another hard worker.
right. What I saw about it was that, like, he was an engineer before this. He should have realized that the frame of the window could not be structurally sound as the window would be. Could you imagine being on that tour that day?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah,
It would be horrific.
You get a little
And
bit more
first
than
of
you
all, I'd
paid
be like,
for.
why the hell is this guy throwing himself at the window? I will believe you if you tell me it's not going to break.
Yeah, what kind of tour is this?
Yeah, like he could have just said,
tour?
it's not going to break if I run into it, and I guarantee everyone would be like, I believe you. No one was like, do it, buddy.
Right.
God.
So
They're all standing around like a frat party cheering them on.
Yeah, right.
he's not doing it for the tour. He's doing it for himself.
Yeah.
He's trying to, it's like TNT was saying, it's like a frat party where everybody's like cheering chug. He's like the guy who was standing around the keg doing beer bongs all night, but since he's at work, he can only run into 24-story windows.
Maybe he was intoxicated. Or on drugs.
Probably was.
Yeah. I don't, I'm trying to think if, anything would make me do that, just out of curiosity.
What, harm yourself or potentially harm yourself? Listen, I just want to look real quick. I just want to mention the fact that you have told me on numerous occasions that you want to jump out of an airplane
Yeah, I want to
and
skydive.
entrust your life to a parachute that resides
2
on your back.
parachutes.
Listen, that's basically the same thing if you ask me.
It kind of is.
Okay.
But you know what? He didn't have 2 windows to break through. He only had
Get
1.
out of here. Stay on the ground where it's safe.
Pod couple, would you guys skydive?
I have no desire, and I think Pod Guy has, and his description of, okay.
Well, I have.
You
And I'll
have
tell you
skydived
exactly-
before?
Yes. And I'll tell you exactly how the experience is. Just get in your car, go down the highway, go really fast, and then stick your face out of the window. That's skydiving.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's really windy.
I guess so. Because here's what I told TNT Dynamite. If I jump out of a plane and both parachutes don't open, it was my day to go.
And that guy threw
I
himself in
agree.
the window. That guy threw himself at that window on the 25th floor, and he said, "You know what? If this window doesn't hold me up, it's my day to go."
No, he was ignorant. He thought it wasn't going to break.
Hey, but there wasn't 2 panes of glass.
There was
Come
only
on,
one
let's get it
window,
straight,
and
Are
TNT.
we really counting pains now? We're going to count the pains?
Well, I don't know. But this
Well, I
story...
see who the sensible one in the relationship is. It goes for both of us, you and us.
All right, here's the story. There is a man. He was called the North Pond Hermit. Figured some of us may like this story about hermits in Maine.
Jonas thinks I'm a hermit. More recluse than a hermit.
You are more a recluse than a hermit. That's absolutely true. So this man, his name was Christopher Thomas Knight. He lived in the woods in Maine for 27 years with almost no human contact. He was an urban legend that he lived in the woods. He set up camp in a well-drained area, and he went into the woods in 1986 when he was 20 years old with almost no possessions. The only thing he had in his camp were things that he went and stole from local campsites and cabins in the area.
That's law of the forest, man. It is unspoken laws of the forest.
It said that he committed over 1,000 burglaries over a 40-year span. Sorry, not a 40-year span. 40 a year for 27 years.
40 a year?
So almost 1 a week he was robbing somebody's cabin.
He would just break into houses.
Cabins and campsites because it was in the woods.
Oh.
Yeah, he probably just snuck right in, and oftentimes cabins don't lock their doors.
I guess that makes sense, yeah, because you're like at a campsite. Why would you think a hermit from the woods is going to come steal your fucking sleep?
Come on, that's fair game then, right?
If the door's unlocked.
Law of the forest, implications there. Plus, they left it open.
Yeah.
But even a tent, right? You could get in. Is there tents in this thing?
I would
Oh, yeah,
think
there's
so.
campground. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he went in, stole people's food and stuff, and it said that he would. I read a little deeper into this. It said that he would steal propane tanks from the campsite, and he would steal one of the canoes from the campsite. He would bring back an empty propane tank and then steal a full one and put the empty one in its spot and then use the canoe to get the propane tank to his campsite. And that's how he would cook. And he would just do this whenever we ran out of propane.
Hardworking genius, I'd say.
Here we go glorifying these guys again. We got to stop glorifying the criminals. I know I just said he was awesome and it was fine, but I'm taking it back.
He did eventually get caught.
Oh, obviously.
After 27 years. And he said in 27 years he encountered one person on a trail, and all he said to them was hi. That's the only amount of speaking he did to another human in 27 years.
Wow. That actually is... It's like,
I know you would like that one. TNT would like that.
Man of my own heart.
Yeah, well, I heard that after so many days without human contact, you kind of go insane. Is this true?
Oh, I'm sure he was crazy. Who wants to live in the woods for 27 years?
Yeah, I would love to know, was he happy? But
maybe he befriended some animals.
Have him on the show, guys.
yeah, let's have him on the show.
Maybe he had a pair of albino raccoons that he kept at my campsite.
It said that the winters in Maine get very, very cold because it's so far north.
Yeah.
It said that he would survive cold winters by waking up in the middle of the night and pacing the camp until he warmed himself up, and then he would go back to sleep.
Mm.
oh my God,
And
that sounds
I know, it does sound terrible. It said that after everything came out and he went through his court case and all of this, he did finally come out and say that about 2 months before he was caught, a fisherman and his son stumbled upon his camp that he didn't mention when he got caught or anything, and they never said anything either. But when they finally interviewed these people after the fact when he told about them, he said that the guy just said he wanted to be left alone and like it didn't want to be around people. So they were like, well, I guess we'll just leave him in the woods to stealing ways.
Stealing ways. No, that's pretty good, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
In court, he did say, here's what he said, and I quote, "Solitude bestows an increase in something valuable, my perception. But when I applied my increased perception to myself, I lost my identity. There was no audience, no one to perform for. To put it romantically, I was completely free."
God, words.
Wow, that's deep.
He turned into Ernest fucking Hemingway in the woods.
Does he have a book?
Totally.
But you just think he's in jail. It's like a 5-star place compared to what he's used to. So
Yeah, right?
Miserable.
It was an upgrade.
He's still in solitary. He just has 4 walls and 3 hots, you know?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, he doesn't have to steal anymore. It's all brought to him.
Oh, goodness. Well, all right, we're going to take a quick break on the Crazy Town Podcast, and we'll be right back with more urban legends with the Pod Couple.
Where am I?
And we are back on the Crazy Town Podcast, Jonas and TNT Dynamite, along with the hosts of the Pod Couple Podcast, Pod Guy and Pod Gal. You guys ready to get into some more urban legends?
sorry.
Yes, continue.
Yes.
All right. The next one I got here is the Alice killings in Japan.
Alice killings.
Alice killings, yes. So there were 5 murders that supposedly happened in Japan between 1999 and 2005. The victims had no relation, and the killings seemed unrelated in just about every way. But each murdered victim, they found a playing card on the victim's body with the word Alice written out in the victim's blood. That sounds connected as fuck to me.
Yeah, it's a serial killer.
Right.
Damn it, we
You
are
gotta
not.
Get him on the show. Get him on the show.
We're not going to glorify this guy. Let's get the Alice killer to know. All right.
So now this
All
one,
females, I'm assuming.
it didn't really say, but what it says, the
I
reason it's an
assume.
urban legend is because people have a hard time finding evidence that this happened, so they don't know if it's like a cover up or if it didn't actually happen. But there was an actual playing card killer in Spain that would leave playing cards on the bodies of the people he killed. They did catch him in 2003.
Oh, really? This happened recently. Well, relatively recently.
Yeah, I mean, 15 years ago now. Holy shit. 2003 was 15 years ago. Oh,
Look at you being all nostalgic.
Don't
That's fine.
Reality check.
I know, right? Oh
It's,
man.
it's fine. We live in the now. We're here now.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah, we do.
We're here now.
Yeah.
okay.
So
It's not
so,
your
yeah,
fault.
I mean, that would be pretty fucking scary, though, man. Like if like
What? To be killed, yes. Being murdered is scary. Thank you. Yes, we understand that. No, it's fine.
how do you guys feel about murder? You think it's scary?
Murder is scary, yeah.
Murder is very scary.
all right.
Especially when it's a serial killer.
Especially when there's playing cards involved. You think, oh, God, there could be 52 of these, right?
Oh wow,
So-
right? And, like, and what if he's like trying to play hands of poker? He's like two guys trying to see who can get the better hand of poker by killing
Wow.
people. That's pretty awful.
Yeah, man.
What if
sick
that's
mind.
what they were doing? The Japan guy and the Spain guy were having like.
The Japan guy and the Spain guy. You are truly an American. Listen at you talk.
I'm sorry, the Japanese fellow.
And the Spaniard.
What if they weren't that national? What if they were just in those countries killing people? I didn't want to be hateful.
Anyway, so you shouldn't kill people, kids.
Well, right.
Don't kill anybody.
Don't kill.
I like it. I like it. I could see The Rock playing a serial killer, and there's cards involved, and he's playing somebody in Spain, a Spaniard.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Who else should we throw in there?
The Rock's going to be the serial killer.
Are we going to throw Kevin Hart in there just because he's been in every other Rock movie?
He's the cop He's like the cop who's like on the prowl of the Rock.
And they become buddies.
Yeah. The cop is the guy from Japan, and then the Rock's in Spain.
Helps him build his magic deck so he can battle on Thursday nights.
Wow.
Anyway,
Are you talking about building magic decks?
yeah, dude.
Oh, okay. Magic the Gathering
But
joke
with
for
that,
people who
with
don't
the
know.
essence of the
I love
the slang.
MTG.
See?
Really?
See, there
Yeah,
you go.
Podcast looking for, he plays online, and he's looking for someone to play online with.
Oh no, I'm not the one. But Podgal, do you play as well? Do you play Podgal?
No, I don't. I just watch.
Oh, okay.
She
Yeah,
cheers
she
me up.
understands
Yeah.
the rules though.
Kill him! Kill him!
Yeah. All right. So another urban legend is called Corpsey
Corpsey.
of Staten Island.
I like the name.
You don't like what he did, I'm sure.
This is all just evil people.
That's what urban legends are. Urban legends aren't happy
Urban legends
tales.
are no.
There's
the,
an urban legend about
the
the guy who
first
puts
one-
$50 under your pillow at night.
The first one was a happy squirrel, and it was just chilling in the cemetery, and then you killed it.
Well,
and
it
then
set
you
the
told
tone
me
for the
about-
rest of the show. Duh.
And now you're just telling me about pornographers who can't hide their pornography right, and fucking stupid guys jumping out of airplanes with parachutes, and fucking corpse people.
Wow.
Who is the corpse guy? I'm sorry.
Don't forget The Rock.
Right, and The
You're
Rock.
right, you're right.
Hey, there was the bank robber, man. That
Oh, yeah.
wasn't like a murder.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad.
If you notice, I always put the happiest stuff first, and it gets
Yeah,
darker
I've
and darker
noticed.
as shit
I've
goes
noticed.
on.
I like it. Great format.
That's how everyone's like, "Oh, this isn't too bad. I want to hear all these happy stories." And then you're like, "Oh, that one's kind of rough." And the next is like, "Oh God!" And then before you know it, you're just sucked into all the death. So, Corpsey was an urban legend about a man who would kidnap kids and take them to an abandoned school, and he had like a hook hand or some shit.
And
But
would he teach them?
Yeah, he would teach them how to kidnap other kids and bring them to the school, and then they formed a cult.
No, stop.
No, not really. That part's made up.
All right.
But this is based on a real man whose name was Andre Rand. He worked as a janitor at the Willowbrook State School before it shut down in 1987. After the school shut down, he continued to live in the school and was suspected of to be responsible for the disappearance of several children. They never proved that he kidnapped the kids that disappeared, but he was convicted of kidnapping once in 1988 and once in 2004. So you think he didn't kidnap anyone between those 16 years?
He took a break, dude.
He took a break.
He was on
One lasted
sabbatical.
quite a while.
Yeah, he was on sabbatical. You know, finding himself.
He's like, "Oh, I filled my kidnapping itch in 1988. Let me wait till 2004 to do it again."
That's crazy, dude. What did he do with the kidnapped victims? Did he
Oh, I don't know, man.
did he kill them?
Probably. Well, he didn't go to jail for murder. He went to jail for kidnapping.
Oh,
He just like held them against their will.
But did he like?
Hey, too much information.
I know, right? I hate
Well,
to,
mean,
I hate to ask, but these
kidnapping
are the
could
things
be-
they're going to
I mean,
want to know.
If I took you against your will and put you in my car and drove you down the street, that's technically kidnapping. Yeah, it's also kidnapping if I take you and kill you in a room. I mean,
no, that's kidnapping,
No, that's
murder.
murder.
Oh wait, hold on.
That's
Murder's
not-
scary. God damn it.
Yeah, that's scary, dude. I don't want to be scared.
I got you.
Surprises can be nice. It can be good kidnapping.
I guess.
Like-
Is there such a thing?
Like if you fucking put me in a car, you blindfolded me and took me against my will to like the movies to go see Black Panther for the second time or Deadpool, or that'd be great. I'd be like, thanks.
Pod couple, where would you like to get kidnapped and taken to that would be a pleasant surprise?
I'm going to say strip bar. That's where it came to my mind.
See, that's where I thought TNT was going to go, and he went to like the movies.
I thought so too, right? The movies, what?
I don't know. I'm not trying to go on a date with
That's
you.
not the TNT.
I'm not trying to go. I can't be vulgar all the time. You got to even it
Yeah,
out.
he's just overwhelmed with all this darkness, and so he was trying to lighten it up a bit.
You know, I'm not gonna lie. What's really been on my mind is why didn't the guy just put the porn in his house? Why do you have to build a special house to house
You're
the
still
porn?
stuck on the
Why? That just makes no sense to me. It just makes no sense.
Does anything
So
about
stupid.
someone who collects child porn make sense?
No,
Right.
I'm just,
So why are you trying to make sense out of
It's
insanity?
just so stupid to put it in a treehouse. I'm sorry.
That's like
Continue.
it's like murdering someone, just putting them like in your trunk and driving around town with them. Like
Like, I don't
couldn't
know,
put them somewhere
man.
else.
Like,
He wanted to get caught.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, he did.
well, I'm.
What
glad.
about you, Pod Guy? Where would you want to be kidnapped and taken to that would be a pleasant surprise?
I want to be kidnapped and taken. I'm like picturing a picnic blanket.
Oh.
And at first I thought beach, but then what popped into my mind was on a volcano.
A volcano?
Like you want to go to
Like
Hawaii?
a sacrifice to the gods?
So we're just kind of on the edge of a volcano. We've, I don't know, been helicoptered in and
So you were kidnapped by helicopter.
That's awesome.
yes.
Pod guy, I think she's giving you hints here.
Right, yeah.
Could have been the kidnapper.
Pod
So
Guy, now
that's
you know what
what-
you need to do later this year. Kidnap or take her in a helicopter to a volcano and have a picnic ready.
No problem.
So how about you, Jonas?
Yeah, let's go with you.
I would like to go get kidnapped and get taken to, God, I don't know, man. The strip club, too? I mean, why wouldn't I want to go to the strip
Hell
club?
yeah, how about the first round?
It's never really bad. It's never really a bad experience.
No. Have you ever had a bad strip club experience? Anyone?
I might pop in after the volcano if that's okay.
Is it? She's not going.
I'll pick TNT up at the movies and then
There
we'll go. Then we'll go hit the strip club and hang out with you two if that's all right.
All right, that's fine.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm all
Okay.
about getting there late.
All right, this one is really fucking creepy, this next one.
Ooh.
In a weird way. This guy, okay, I found that this was like a Reddit thread that I found about urban legends that are true. And this one was said to be from Liverpool, England. It said, in Liverpool, kids are taught about purple, a key, or a kai from a young age. He's been locally known and feared for honestly 3 decades. He likes feeling boys' muscles and making them do squats. He's completely real and even had court orders against him preventing him from feeling people's muscles.
Mm.
Oh, wow, I see where this is going.
So this guy,
Well.
his real name, I'm going to try to pronounce it, is Akinwale Oluwafalamaji Oluwatope Arakobiki.
Okay, so
I'm going to spell it out.
what's the country of origin?
It's in England. I don't know where he's from.
Oh.
Wow.
I'm going to spell these out. Akinwale, Akinwale,
Okay.
OluwafolaJimi, Oluwafolajimi. I'll say Jimmy. It's probably Jaime or whatever.
Dude, this sounds like you're naming off a bunch of vowels at this point.
No shit, right? The next
I
one,
just, like, yes. Before,
Joking,
after, why.
TNT.
the next one is Oluwatope, Oluwatope.
Isn't
Last one, Arobieke, Arobike.
it? Sure.
Best
Yeah.
thing about this guy, He's a fucking bodybuilder. He's 6'5", 310 pounds. So if he walked up to you and was like, "Let me feel your muscles," guess what you're doing? Letting him feel your
Let him
muscles.
feel whatever he wants.
This guy's over here breaking consent rules all over the beach, just feeling people's muscles up.
Can you imagine a big, tall, 6'5", 310 buff dude comes up and goes, "Let me feel your muscles. Do some squats for me." You're like, ah! Like, I would feel assaulted with just him saying that.
Maybe he thought he was helping. How is this an urban legend?
Because
he's not an urban legend.
Well, it's a real thing, I guess. It's a creepy
You
guy.
try to sneak that one past our listeners, and they're smarter than that.
I know they are.
I see past your urban legend.
So, okay. When he went to court and got forbidden from making people feel their muscles, he spent time in jail for this, like, assaulting people.
Yeah.
It said by the prosecutor. The prosecutor said he became sexually aroused while forcing terrified young men to perform inverted piggybacks.
God damn it.
Ordering them to squat so he could lean over their backs with his face by their buttocks and his genitalia on their necks while squeezing their quad muscles.
Oh my God.
Again, to pump you up.
He just he makes them bend over doing squats and he leans over them over their body and grabs their
You got to know a little bit about anatomy to truly get a visual image for what the fuck he just said there.
That reminds me of an eye doctor I just went to.
Think of like the wrestling move. He's getting ready to do a power bomb on someone. He has like the back of their neck against his nuts. And then he's leaning over top of them.
Picture it.
Okay, yeah, we got it.
But then he's making sure their quads are in good shape.
He's massaging the back of your neck with his balls. Dude, that's not cool. There's nothing cool about that.
It's not.
That's going to be a problem.
Well, yeah. That's why he went to jail numerous times.
I don't give a fuck how big you are or how many vowels you got in your goddamn name. I will kill a motherfucker if they put their balls on my neck.
Get him on the show, guys. Get him on the show.
I'll get that guy on the show.
No! We're not getting that Harvey Weinstein bodybuilding ass fuck on the show. A-E-I-O-U-I-O-U, Jacoby, fuck you.
Wow.
God damn it.
Wow. All right, on to the next one. This is Le Loyon. L-E.
Perfect pronunciation.
L-O-Y-O-N. Loyon.
You got it.
Wow.
I couldn't do better.
Could you not?
No, I could not.
This is a Switzerland-based legend.
Mm-hmm.
There were people in Switzerland telling a story of a figure they saw walking through the mollusk forest wearing camouflage and a gas mask.
Huh. The mollusk forest?
Mollusk. M-A-U-L-E-S. Mollusk.
Okay.
Whatever.
No, sure.
For 10 years, there was no evidence this man existed, except for the accounts of the people seeing him. And from all the accounts, he was not dangerous or malicious. He never tried to come at anybody or whatever. People would just see him walking at night in the dark with a camouflage suit and a gas mask on. I mean, that's fucking creepy, right?
A little bit.
Yeah, the gas mask is creepy.
Any man in a gas mask is creepy. That isn't like in like a area that needs the gas mask for work.
That's true.
Yeah, it's a red flag for sure.
So if you saw me at Tim Hortons in a gas mask, you think I'm a weirdo?
I would.
All right, fair enough.
It would be a red flag.
I can see Pod Guy hiding a receipt in his pocket for the gas mask he just bought.
Waiting in the bushes for you.
He's like, damn it, I guess this is a no-go.
Yeah, it's a no-go.
So this guy, since there was no evidence, he became called the Ghost of Mollusk or Le Loyon.
Le Lion.
In 2013, a pedestrian actually managed to snap a photo of this man from behind. He was in like a camouflage parka, basically.
And how was his ass?
It was very loose.
Okay.
Not his ass, the coat.
His ass?
Nice.
So what ended up happening, though, is kind of sad. So a few months later, after this picture got circulated and people were like, oh my God, the monster of the forest, whatever. The people found the gas mask and in the camouflage. It showed up in the woods by itself with a note. And the note said, I am harmless, but I will no longer stand to be viewed as a monster. And he has never been seen again since.
No.
He gave up his fucking hobby of walking around in a gas mask and camouflage.
Okay, you guys don't like it? Well, then I'm quitting.
Yeah. Oh, wait, this is weird? Oh, I'm done, guys. Fuck you guys.
A monster? That's pretty harsh.
Yeah.
It just the way that the note was worded just kind of makes me think like he really had an affinity for it. Like he really just enjoyed doing it, and he didn't want to be shamed because of it.
He was like, "What's your hobby?" Well, I put on a gas mask and a camouflage parka, and I just walk around the woods.
He just hung out, dude. He was just gas masking it up.
Yeah, I guess.
That's
that
sad.
was that one. That was a little sad. A little heart plugged at your heartstrings.
Yeah.
It's like the
it
monster.
did.
Yeah. Now this is the Bunny Man.
Oh Jesus!
Do you think he was normal by day?
The gas mask guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he like worked. He was
Yeah.
like a clerk at 7-Eleven at night. He just went home and put on his like costume and just walked around.
Is that real?
I don't know.
Oh, so
I
he
don't know.
could still be out there.
Oh, that's true. He's still.
Well, I'm
out
sure
there.
he is. He just he only wears his parka and gas mask around the house now. He just sits around, watch reruns of Frasier in his chair watching.
Jesus.
Sounds good to me.
All right, the Bunny Man.
Yeah, well, we already know this is going to be terrible just from the name.
This is from Virginia. The legend goes that in 1994 there was a bus crash of mental patients, and only 11 of 12 were found. Shortly thereafter, dead bunnies were found along the area and hanging from a bridge in Virginia.
Here we go.
It was never proven true because mainly there was no mental hospital open in 1994 in this county.
Oh,
That's what they say.
okay.
But
But
the Bunny Man, there's two stories from 1970. The first one was a couple was driving at night. These are both true. A couple was driving at night when a man in a bunny suit appeared in the road in front of them and threw an axe at their front windshield.
the fuck?
Right. It said it broke the windshield, but it did not hurt either person in the car other than their psyche, obviously.
Yeah.
I'd be fucked up for like a week. Like, what the fuck was that?
And he just ran off.
Can you imagine driving again?
Yeah. Oh my god, that would be
Pod
so.
guy hides the receipt for the bunny costume that he had.
And axe.
And axe.
So, like, I don't even know like how I would like handle that. Like, how would you, pod couple? How would you handle it if like you were the couple riding around in the car and a bunny guy threw a fucking axe at your front windshield?
This is
You
your
know,
chance
at
to-
first I would just be terrified. I'd be shitting my pants, but then I'd go, yeah, good one.
Like a week later, you'd be like, "Oh, that bunny man, what a trickster!"
Makes for a good story. Well, I would not only be terrified to drive at night again, because I'm picturing this at night, I would be terrified to camp.
Yeah, terrified to camp.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
like inevitably there's going to be some chopping of the wood
What the hell are you talking about?
with an axe, right? So I would just be not only would that guy have spoiled driving, he would have spoiled camping.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so it'd be rough for me. It would be hard to recover from that experience.
Yeah, I imagine it sounds like something out of a horror movie. Honestly,
We
so.
should start doing a horror movie,
No,
The Bunny Man.
I don't want to do that. I don't, dude.
Well, just that whole bunny suit, like those furry bunny suits.
It's like from the 70s too, because you know they weren't very good, so they were like uber creepy. Like, have you seen like the stuffed animals from the 70s that look like they were made by a serial killer? 'Cause
They're
all-
terrifying.
Yeah, right. With like the beady
Yeah.
eyes and shit.
You know, there's
Yeah,
people who have a
it's-
fetish for dressing up in those suits, right?
Yeah, and they fuck each other in the woods.
Whoa, guy. We
Whoa.
don't want to demonize
I
those
don't wanna
people.
demonize it.
They're allowed to do
And
whatever they
her
want.
taking an axe blade.
So there was one other sighting of the Bunny Man. 2 weeks later, another man reported seeing a man in a bunny suit with an axe chopping away at the front porch of a brand new unoccupied home.
What the hell?
So he was just standing out front with an axe, chopping away at this new construction, and when the cops showed up, there was no bunny to be found, and he was never seen again. So he had two incidents. He threw an axe at a car, and then he was just chopping away at an unoccupied home, and that was it.
Wow.
Wow. Anger issues.
Yeah, right? He was like, he got really pissed. His fucking daughter's bunny died, and she like was sad.
I'm thinking, honestly, it was probably like the guys who were dressing up like clowns and like holding machetes and
Oh,
shit.
yeah, that shit happened a couple years ago.
Yeah, and it was just probably some bored kids.
It was just meant to be like scare people. Well, I mean, he threw an axe at a car. That's pretty malicious.
Yeah, that's pretty
a little
severe. That's not just putting a costume on and going out.
Well, and that's also talented, right? Like in terms of being able,
Hard worker. Takes a lot to chop up a porch.
Yeah.
but to fling that axe at a moving vehicle
That's
in
true.
the dark and to hit the windshields, I think that takes a bit of talent.
Yeah.
So he obviously was skilled.
So he
He's
worked
a
at medieval
genius.
times. He worked at the axe throwing booth at medieval times.
Yes,
Nobody works there.
right.
All right, one last one, and we'll wrap it up, guys. There was a has anyone here heard of the video game Polybus?
Polybus.
Polybus. You've heard of this, haven't you, TNT?
Absolutely.
Have either of you two heard about this?
No.
I've actually listened to another podcast that did a whole episode on this game. What it was is in 1981, there's rumors that an arcade machine showed up in an arcade in Portland, Oregon. And the game was called Polybus. It was like a geometry-based sort of game, connecting lines, triangles, whatever. But what ended up happening is the kids would like line up to play this game. But then the kids who would start playing it would end up having like nausea, stress. They'd start having nightmares. Some were claiming they had seizures and things like that. And people recall that this particular game, people would come in and collect, and it would be serviced way more than any other game in the arcade. And people in suits would come in, service the machine, and they would leave. And then about a month later, they came in and took the arcade machine out, and there's like no trace of the game anymore. No one has a copy of it. No one has an emulator of it.
And they're
No one
thinking that
recall.
the game was causing these illnesses?
The rumor is that it was a government test, and that they were coming in to get the data off the machine to see how much people were playing, and then the relation of how people were getting ill or whatever. Because I mean, the military's used video games for training for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So
I could see that.
and like there's a lot of rumors of whether this ever existed or not, because there's no hard proof. It's just people who claim they played it, or people who claim they knew someone who played it. It's all hearsay. There's no definitive evidence on this, but there's people who have done like research about this game, and it's still up in the air whether it actually ever happened or not.
Cool.
That's
That's kind of. Go ahead there, TNT.
No, I was just saying that's pretty neat.
Wow.
I think it's cool. I do.
What were you gonna say, Pod Guy?
Well, we're watching this TV show, and it's called Channel Zero, and
Okay.
it's kind of like the same concept. It's like they remember this childhood TV show, and when the show was on, that nobody remembers. There's no evidence of it being around. All these kids went missing, kind of thing. So it's kind of like that video game,
Oh wow,
except for
I like the
Yeah,
idea.
it's true.
That's
Not of
interesting.
missing kids. I like the idea.
I like the idea
Not
of
of
kids having seizures. And
no, I like the idea
and having a great time.
yeah, right.
of being able to interface with the mind through like what we have outside. I don't know.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
It didn't take quarters; it took souls.
Yeah.
That's why they had to
I
empty
wondered
so
why it just
often.
had a fingerprint reader on it. You just put your fingerprint on, and next thing you know,
Why does the game need a blood sample in order for me to play?
well, everybody, that is all the time we have for today's episode.
That was the last one?
Yeah, that was it. We went almost an hour on this, so
Holy shit.
I do
Wow.
want to thank everybody for listening out there. I want to thank TNT Dynamite again for joining me on the podcast, and of course, the Pod Couple. Thank you again for joining us. And can you tell everybody where they can find you on the internet one more time?
You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Pod Couple. And our podcast is available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio,
Spotify.
iHeartRadio, anywhere you listen to podcasts. So
You go fucking listen to them.
Do it.
Yeah, do it.
Grandma says so.
Yeah, Grandma does say to listen to the Pod Couple. TNT, well, you got anything you want to talk about?
Yo, man, I'm just here. I'm here. Hi.
Can they find you on Twitter? Who
Yeah,
next
you
to?
can find me on YouTube. I don't have anything there. You can find me on Twitter.
You don't tweet.
I don't tweet.
You're basically who?
But if you tweet me, then I'll get it and I'll be like, "Hey, what's up? I like you because you like me."
What if you don't like them?
I'm probably, if they listen to the podcast, dude, they're already
They're
on
your
my
favorite.
good side.
They're already
Yeah.
in your top 10.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, I've watched some of your gameplay too on the Crazy Town Media
outta
channel
here,
on
dude.
YouTube.
Oh, have you? That's awesome.
Oh, stop doing
Yeah.
that. That's scary.
Which game did you watch? Just play.
I can't remember what it was. Like there was one.
But you were kicking ass big time.
Dude, she's
There
gonna
was a-
judge us. They're gonna judge us. I'm leaving.
There was a female name. I can't remember the name of it.
Oh,
but-
Celeste.
Yeah.
Yes.
That game was interesting. That gave TNT nightmares.
It
Celeste.
did, man. That was a hard one to get through.
So, but anyways, our website, if you want to find anything about the show, the cornucopia of continuous information, thecrazytown.com, Twitter at the Crazy Town Pod for the podcast, at Crazy Town Media for everything under the Crazy Town umbrella. Of course, we're on YouTube, Crazy Town Media. Please go there and subscribe. iTunes, SoundCloud. Tell us what you hate about the show. For Jonas, for TNT Dynamite, and for the Pod Couple, we are out.